Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is Chance Ball Chapter 48, and this one is titled, He Wasn't the Captain for Nothing. As you suspected, Dabi was still out like a light when you left for work at 3 p.m, and you gave him a kiss goodbye before leaving. Hopefully he won't come back home at some stupid hour drunk as hell, you thought as you got to the corner store and entered for your shift, greeting your boss with a smile. A little after you left, Dabi hauled his hungover ass out of bed and went to drown his face in freezing cold water to wake himself up. Once he'd taken some pain medication and eaten some leftover greasy food, he felt better and headed to the local hall to do his second round of training. As he entered the side door, he earned himself some smiles from the girls and a scowl from the 16-year-old bitch who got her knickers in a knot the first time that they had met. "I'm going," she announced loudly, turning and marching off before the coach or Dabi could say anything. "Leave her," Dabi said to the coach as he approached him. "If she can't grow a pair and suck it up, then she shouldn't be on the team." The older coach nodded and then handed over to Dabi. "Diving drills," Dabi said to the girls, who had all huddled around him. "Let's go." There was a groan from the girls as they dropped their heads and walked to one end of the indoor court, turning when they got to the wall. "Let's go," Dabi called, clapping his hands. "One." The girls crouched and then jumped with arms out a bit to catch them as they landed on their fronts and then pulled themselves up. "Two," Dabi shouted again, waiting for them to complete the drill. Two of the girls buckled a bit, but jumped back up for the next jump, and Dabi clapped again to get their attention. "Chins up, keep your core and back tight, look up, don't look down," he called loudly as one girl bumped her chin on the floor. Up they all jumped again, and he walked along the sidelines. One girl dropped back down, and he pursed his pierced lips. Of course it's Omawei. She glanced up at him with a worried look on her face, and got up quickly, diving again but not catching herself on her arms and crashing to the floor, bumping her chin and cheek as she scrunched into the hard wooden boards. Get up, Dabi called to her, seeing her face fall with embarrassment as she lagged behind, rubbing her face where she'd hit it. Poor Omawei dove again and buckled again, now 2 lengths behind the rest of the girls. "Up," Dabi called. "Come on, when you fall behind, you've got to work harder, don't let it get to you." Setting her face, Omawei did her best to complete the drills, finally getting to the end as her teammates patted her on the back and helped her up. "Good work," Dabi said as he walked over in front of them again. "Now back again." "Seriously?" one girl deadpanned. "Did I stutter?" Dabi asked. "Get your asses down the other end, face down, diving." He only just managed to catch himself by saying, "Face down, ass up." As the girls dove, heading back the other way, Dabi stopped Omawei. "Sit-ups," he said to her, 50 sit-ups. "Now?" she panted. "Yes, hurry up. You have to complete them all by the time the girls get to the other end." With a terrified look on her face, she dropped to the ground and rolled onto her back, starting the sit-ups at a cracking pace. Dabi had the girls in a lather of sweat by the end of the session, practicing passes, jump serves, running, catching the ball, and then dodging back through some cones before tossing it up and serving it to the ball cart parked on the other side of the net. "This is ridiculous," one of the girls panted, hands on knees, heaving for air. "Is winning ridiculous?" Dabi asked her from the side of the court where he'd heard her comment. She looked at him, mortified that he had heard her. "If you want to win, you need to be better than the other team. Simple. And until you can nail all these drills, you're not going to win." "As if anyone can nail these. They're too hard," another girl piped up, wiping a massive sweat from her forehead. "Too hard?" Dabi laughed loudly, immediately commanding all of their attention. "Don't make me laugh. You're all piss weak, that's what it is." There was a shock that rippled through all of them. Had he just called them piss weak? "I'd like to see you nail these drills then," one shot back, obviously offended by his comment. He chuckled, narrowing his turquoise eyes at her and licking his bottom lip. "You want to see me make these drills scream for mercy?" "Yes," the offended girl replied sassily. "Okay. What drills did you want me to do?" He had been about to say, "What drills did you want me to in the arse?" Very much a Dabi reply. "All of them," the girl replied, crossing her arms across her chest and smirking. "Done," Dabi replied. "Diving drills first." He turned and walked to the far end and took his shirt off, keeping his singlet on underneath, but as he removed his shirt, it rode everything up a little and showed off his perfectly sculptured, purple-scarred torso, and a few of the girls' eyes flew open with surprise. Like a professional, Dabi dove his way around and then back in perfect form, jumping up and jogging the perimeter before coming back and grabbing a ball and then dodging the cones and jump serving the ball over the net right into the centre of the ball cart, all without breaking a sweat. "Any questions?" he asked, only breathing a little heavier than usual. You didn't throw that one backwards, the girl said cheekily, so Dabi picked up a ball and tossed it over his shoulder, without looking, and got it in the ball cart, backwards. Any other questions? He asked with a smirk. Okay, that wasn't fair, the offended girl said. You're obviously not human, you're a robot. The other girls chuckled and agreed, giving Dabi a very fan-type look. Now, he said, go back to work so you can beat me. Omawei just stared at Dabi in awe. It was safe to say that she had now caught fanitis and was determined to make him proud. At the end of practice, Dabi and Tonkata chatted about the girls. That Omawei has potential, Tonkata said. Her mother was a very good player. Then leave that with her mother. Don't project onto her. She's her own person. But I believe she's got potential too. Everyone has potential, if they put their minds to something, Dabi said wisely. Tonkata nodded and rubbed his chin and mouth to hide a smirk. He was very pleased with Dabi, though. Come for drinks again, he invited. I'll have to pass this time, Dabi replied. Mrs. wasn't too pleased with my drunk ass showing up at screwed o'clock. Don't tell me you're not scared of your lady, Tonkata teased. The devil himself runs and hides when my girl gets jacked, Dabi replied honestly. Don't cross her. Fair enough, Tonkata chuckled. I'll see you tomorrow night. Let me shout you dinner then. I can pay my own, Dabi replied with a smirk. But dinner sounds good. I have plenty of time to warn my missus. Good enough, Tonkata replied with a grin as he picked up his clipboard and a few items, and then they left. Dabi packed up a few things in the hall and then went to close for the night. He had just walked out the hall doors when he saw movement in the outside volleyball court and saw Omawei practicing her jump serves. Her form was all over the place and his skin prickled at how wrong she was doing it. After locking the door, he walked over and called out to her. You practicing volleyball? Or is this a new sport for the... Again, Dabi had to stop himself from saying something completely inappropriate. I'm practicing my jump serves, Omawei puffed, sweat beading on her forehead. Dabi could tell that although her form was weak and she didn't look like she was trying at all, she was sweating up a storm. He softened a little and walked over to pick up the ball. Your form is all right, but it can be better. Here. He walked over to her and placed the ball in her hand and then walked around behind her and placed his hands under her upper arms to raise her arms up. Toss it up high. Doesn't matter if it goes too high. Better to be too high than too low, he instructed, showing her how to toss the ball up with force by pushing her arms up from underneath. She allowed him to show her, trying a few times without his help when he directed her to do so. Focus on the ball the whole time, he called when he saw her attention waver. She tried, but the ball still hit the net and bounced to the floor. Her face fell, and she looked down at the ground. He could see something was bothering her, so he walked to her side again. Hey, he said in a low, calming voice. You can't play if your mind isn't in it. What's wrong? You've been distracted ever since the first day I started with the team. She looked up at him shyly, and then away. You noticed? She looked down at the ground and fiddled with her fingers. Hard not to when the pixies are floating around your head, drinking your daydream nectar, he replied. She looked up at him with an odd expression on her face, and he chuckled a little. That's something my grandma used to say to me, if I was daydreaming. Oh, she whispered, looking back down. So you want to tell me what's going on? He prompted. Home life isn't really good at the moment, and I'm letting the team down. I'm letting everyone down. You're letting me down too, Dabi added, watching her flinch. So what are you going to do about it? Screw everybody else. I'm the only one who matters. How are you going to stop letting me down? I'm going to try harder at volleyball, she replied softly. You're damn right you are. So pick up that ball, get your arms up like I showed you. I'm not leaving until you give me one good serve. She relaxed a little, and a warm smile graced her face as she looked into his eyes. Go on, he gestured to the ball, and she ran off to get it. All of that hesitation and lack of concentration disappeared immediately, and she was more focused than he had ever seen her before. Everything he called out to her to improve her serve, she did, and when she put her mind to it, she could really smack that ball hard. Well done, Dabi said, clapping his hands with pride. Good work. Now go home before your parents kill me for not letting you go sooner. Dabi, could you walk me home? It's a little bit dark and I'm scared, she mumbled, that hesitation coming back in again. Sure, he grunted, checking his watch. I better text Yin so she knows where I am, or else I'm going to get eaten alive for turning up late with no warning. While he texted you, Omawei grabbed her bag, and once she was ready to go, Dabi and her headed for her house. She asked Dabi a few questions about himself and his life as they walked, and he answered as vaguely as possible because he didn't want her to feel too comfortable around him, but overall he could see that she was relaxing more. My house is just around the corner, she said as they neared the end of the block. You okay from here? He asked. She nodded hesitantly and looked from him to the corner, then froze. Dabi stopped as well and looked at her. What is it? He asked. She hung her head and held onto her bag strap. Omawei? There's a guy there. Do you know him? Dabi asked, looking back up but not seeing anyone. She nodded silently. I don't like him. He touches. At hearing the word touches, Dabi arced up. The hell? Oh, he seethed under his breath as he left her side and walked to the corner. The second that he rounded it, he was grabbed around stomach height by a guy in a black hoodie, and in return he grabbed the guy's wrist and twisted it around and back the wrong way, causing the hooded figure to screech and fall to his knees. Surprise, mother trucker. It's titsless Dabi. Should I grab your dick and yank it off and then shove it up your ass? Maybe it could work as a second tongue for you. Or maybe I'll use you as my puppet, huh? Shove my hand up your ass, rearrange your guts to spell my name. Pathetic piece of crap. Dabi leaned down and punched the guy square in the face. If I hear about you touching Omawei again, I'll come to your house. I'll screw your mum, chop your dad's dick off, and then sew it on your forehead. Do you understand? He punched the guy again for emphasis and then let him go, having to hold himself back and take some deep breaths to stop himself from killing the guy right there and then. Oh, Dabi is not impressed. There was a bit of Bakugo that jumped out there. I'm sure that the OGs that have heard my Bakugo voice in a number of the other books will have recognised a little bit of Bakugo that jumped out. We love a protective Dabi. Stay tuned for the next chapter coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.